Hi, I'm Sandra Razzelli, and I'd like to share with you today some tools for de-slouching. As many of you know, we have a slouch spot. That space between the shoulder blades that when we round, it affects the position of our neck, our pelvis, and over time, it doesn't feel so good to be here. So there's a lot in yoga we do to de-slouch. And one of the great ways to do that is to put yourself in a position where your body is automatically de-slouching. So that's what I want to share with you today. There are many great things you can do actively, but this is one that's more receptive. So we're going to take 2 blocks, or you can use books or anything else that you might find, a box, something you have. But right now I've got these handy dandy blocks. And I'm going to put one on the highest level and one a little bit below. And then I'm going to sit in front of the block in such a way that when I lie down, it hits my slouch spot. But before I do that, I'm first going to take my heels wider than the toes and bring my knees together, which is also the opposite of what happens to your body when you slouch. When we slouch, we tend to take our thighs wide. So here, we internally rotate the legs a little, and then that gives a nice rest for some of the muscles around the hip joint. So then I'm going to lie on down on the block in such a way that the block hits that spot between my shoulder blades. And before I lie down all the way, I'd like to take my hands behind my head, reach my elbows away from each other, and lengthen the back of my neck. And as I do that, I take a big breath into my upper ribs. Now the tendency when we begin to go lower, as you see me gradually doing, is when we begin to go lower, these lower ribs often tend to pop up like this. And it feels like we're really opening the chest, but what we're actually doing is putting pressure in the lower back. So as you lower down, I encourage you to keep these lower ribs pretty stable so that when you come down, bringing your head onto the block, you're creating really a lot of opening across the chest. And then you can take your arms out to your side, let the knees come towards each other. Notice my arms are positioned in such a way that the upper arms are rolled externally away from the center, so my palms face up towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to stay here and breathe. And I like to breathe in such a way that as I exhale, I let my jaw soften, allow for the shoulders to soften. I like to think of letting go of one layer. It's hard to do this and talk at the same time, but you can do it and talk without talking. So I invite you to practice this at home as you exhale, letting one layer release. And then as you inhale, encourage the breath to rise upward, so it comes into the side ribs, into the upper lungs, into the upper ribs, all the way up to the collarbones. And then on your exhalation, you keep a feeling of expansion even as you let go of the breath. There's still that openness that you've created in the upper body. And you might stay here for a few minutes before doing a yoga practice. You might stay here for 5 or 10 minutes, even 15, 20 minutes, when you just want to get a little bit more feeling of openness, expansion, a little more energy as well. And then when you're ready to come out of the pose, be careful. Sometimes you might not have known how much change you were experiencing in your body. So you're going to drape one arm over the other and then just roll over to your side. Take a moment lying on your side. Take another nice exhalation. And then use your hands to come up. So your head's going to come up last. So use your hands to come up. You come on up to sitting. Arrange your hair if you need to. Be on the front edge of your sit bones. Encourage the collarbones to lift, the shoulder blades to descend. Imagine the block is still there. Breathe as if the block is still there. Now, some of you may find that when you sit on the floor like this, no matter what you do, you still have that roundedness. You're still slouching. And that tends to be because of tightness in the hips. So if that is the case, take your block. Sit up on the block. That's going to give you a little more mobility so that then you can shift the hips so you're on the front edge of the sit bones. And then you can have that nice posture without a slouch spot. So I hope you find this helpful. You can find out more about me or see some other videos through raziyoga.com.